So an interview from a few days back confirms Sylvanas' return sometime in midnight. The War Within questline was just the start of things, and something big will be happening soon. The elves are reuniting, they're inviting the void infused ones back, so why would they shun the undead elves, especially heroes like Sylvanas Windrunner that became a Banshee because she was defending the Sunwell? Well, we got a few hints to look at. The recent Undercity and Delve revamp hint in 12.1.5 that we could see happening, but also the Windrunner Spire, which will happen in midnight. Sylvanas is definitely coming back, this much we knew even with the recent questline, but could we see her reunite with the elves instead of returning as the Banshee Queen? Let's check out everything we know. With Sylvanas gone for so long, she has a lot to catch up to, and you can also catch up super fast with WoW coaching and overgear. If you're playing the game, but you're never really getting better, even though you're putting a lot of time in, it's not really a matter of putting in even more time, but you might just need a better perspective and a look from the outside. This is where overgear coaching steps in, and it's not really starting from scratch, it's an outsider's perspective analyzing your gameplay and pointing out the exact mistakes you're making. It's not a generic guide troubleshooting advice, but quick and practical feedback from experienced players. Best of all, you can book sessions super quick and get started immediately. You can use my code 10Dorons to get an awesome discount, and you can start your own personal coaching session today with my link in the description below. Okay, Sylvanas' point, you already know Sylvanas is coming. Not only did they confirm this around 6 months ago, but we had the pretty interesting questline at the end of the War Within when we went into the mod that I feel like it implies so much and changes so much lore, yet barely anyone is talking about it, and Blizzard hasn't really followed up on it yet. So you may remember this interview from about 6 months back when one of the lead Blizzard devs told us that we can expect to see some characters that were not in the Midnight Announcement cinematic, and that we will see Sylvanas coming in midnight. Now, Sylvanas actually didn't come in Midnight yet, but she came in the prequel to Midnight, which was this questline with Arator, where he sought her out hoping to persuade her to come to Azeroth to help us defend the Sunwell against Xel'Atath's Void Invasion. Keep in mind though, this is not what they were talking about, they actually got other plans for her, as a new interview confirmed from a few days back. However, the reason the Sylvanas questline was a big deal in the War Within was that she literally told us that Shadowlands is a complete and utter scam. While it's not outright confirmation that everything is fake, it's kinda as good as a confirmation really with what they foreshadowed with this questline. She told us that she has seen beyond this fake veil of death into the true afterlife, and that this entire Shadowlands thing that we are going to seems way too ordered. Keep in mind, using the word ordered very strongly, linking the Titan presence and that they really had something to do with this. So in a way, I think this was at first a setup for a story likely tied to The Last Titan, that the Shadowlands are somehow related to the Titans, very likely yet another part of the prison mechanism that they have over Azeroth. This did make sense though as well, and we even got hints like these in the Shadowlands themselves, that Primus was potentially working with one of the Titans and that there really was a connection between these two pantheons. So Sylvanas is in a really unique position, having actually seen this, and almost certainly this knowledge will be very useful once the Titans do come to Azeroth. Now here's the thing, her return has essentially been confirmed in this questline, and also in this questline we also saw Nathanos, which was never really explained why, but I digress. So Arator asks her to return, but she says that she still has her job to do in the Shadowlands, but in a way she confirms that their paths will cross again, essentially she's saying that she will come back another time in the future. Actually, during the Dragonflight in the Forsaken questline, we also had a vision of Sylvanas hinting at this, and this happened about 2 years back. Now, we know there is the Windrunner Spire related to the Windrunner sisters, and all the sisters are relevant in Midnight, but do not just speculate kinda baselessly here. We actually have an interview, which is only from a few days back, that confirms what I'm currently talking about. Here is what they kinda said. I mean, it's not really word for word. We have seen her doing her work in the mob, this is just what I mentioned, and we're also going into the Ever Song and the Windrunner Spire, so there we will learn more about Sylvanas and this future of her character in the saga. Blizzard here says that they don't want to make any promises right now, as it will kind of spoil, so they're not giving us concrete info when exactly we will see her, but they did already reveal her in the prequel to Midnight, and a character like this won't be left out of the saga. Essentially, they're saying here that her little cameo here was just the start, and there will be a storyline in the saga itself. Now, one thing I want to mention, so that we can combine this with the other evidence that we have, as we already have a decently clear picture, it's important to note that Sylvanas is a major character for for two very important and very relevant factions for Midnight. That is the Blood Elves of Quel'Thalas and the Forsaken, and we just learned recently both will be very important. I mean, obviously the Elves are the center of this expansion, but they also confirmed that the Forsaken will be relevant. We actually get a questline in Midnight where the Blood Elves talk about how they actually respect Sylvanas and how they see her as the Ranger General that gave her life to protect Quel'Thalas. They kind of see this as a separate form of Sylvanas. I mean, separate Sylvanas that didn't do all this crazy stuff post-Legion. And all this is actually completely factually true. Despite the recent Sylvanas controversy, I mean, in her high Elven life, she was really as pure as it gets. She literally did everything she could to stop Arthas, and this sacrifice turned her into the undead that she currently is. Sylvanas, despite being a different character, now an undead, is still very related and tied to the Elves of Quel'Thalas. There is no way this Quel'Thalas thing can happen without her. Keep in mind, based on this story, this new invasion of the Sunwell and Quel'Thalas is supposedly just as bad as the one led by Arthas in Warcraft 3. I can't honestly say with a straight face it's nearly on the same hype level, but objectively it is around the same threat, or arguably even worse, because the Lich King was after accomplishing a few things in Northrend, but these guys wanna destroy the universe itself and the planet and who knows what not. But all that aside, Sylvanas is now an undead, but with her recent excursion into the Maw and her entire deal with the jailer and everything, I think she's much more than just that one undead that was cursed by Arthas and such, and she knows at the core she is an elf that was twisted with this Shadowlands mechanism magic. She lost her life defending the Sunwell and Quel'Thalas, so it does seem strange that she would not care that it is being threatened and attacked once again. Furthermore, with these Shadowlands changes and all these new variations of elves, as crazy as it sounds, there is a possibility that Sylvanas could actually return to the elves and not really as a Forsaken leader. I'm not saying revived or back to her old Ranger General form, but we do know a lot more about undead right now than we did in the past. The undead are no longer seen as like these mindless cursed beings, but just like a different, I mean technically living form on Azeroth with a culture of their own. At this point they're no longer really the Forsaken, but just death magic infused beings. I mean death magic infused humans and death magic infused elves. On the other hand, there actually is a really big possibility that something happens with her as an undead. I mean, you can check on my recent video on the Undercity revamp, but we do have some really interesting information and new hints. Just a few days back we had the announcement with them talking about the labyrinth system and elves, and then we determined a delve achievement called To Die in Lordaeron or Undercity, very strongly hinting that there might be a delve and a storyline in Undercity, and finally a revamp. Furthermore, a few months back we had also gotten confirmed information from interviews that the Forsaken will play a role in Midnight as well. Not as big of a role as the Elves and the Elven reunion, but they will be relevant. Seeing that the Labyrinth thing has been put in 12.1.5 just a bit after BlizzCon, this could be when Sylvanas becomes relevant again. Personally, I'm almost certain that Sylvanas is not coming back as the Queen of the Forsaken, and they will very likely keep their current leadership, but some sort of a role is definitely possible. It doesn't appear that she will be in the Maw forever, and with us learning that the Shadowlands are fake, no one really even died. They just got trapped in this like Titan pocket dimension. As crazy as it sounds with the Elven reunion, I think Sylvanas returning to the Elves seems actually very likely. I mean, they're seemingly starting to accept everyone and reunite the void converted ones, so why would the Elves shun the undead like death magic infused elves that were just regular high elves that were victims of the scourge, especially heroes like Sylvanas that became an undead to protect the rest of the elves and to keep them living? I mean, the Elven Sister reunion has been hinted at for years now with the various books and interactions they had over the years, but now we will see what will happen in the Windrunner Spire. I'm guessing there will be a clue on what will happen with Sylvanas and what we can expect. I could honestly see her having a role for the Forsaken, but as I said, possibly like a bridge character. I don't think we're returning to the Banshee Queen times, but based on the Dragonflight questline, it doesn't appear that all the Forsaken hate her and they have been rebuilding her character for years really at this point, so her return is confirmed, that we know. The foreshadowing was in the War Within already, now we know she's coming back in the saga, but to what extent we can't really say yet. I mean, I'm expecting we're going to see this possibly in 12.1.5 and forward possibly towards Midnight ending, but at this point, I mean, we can only really speculate. Thank you for watching. Check out the recently confirmed Orgrimmar and Stormwind revamp Blizzard has planned by clicking on the screen, and check out my brand new Witcher lore channel that I just opened by clicking on the screen as well. See you next time!